Hello everybody. Today I want to do another Soundbites, I guess podcast even. Um, I did play a Lord of the Rings game today. I played really badly. I wasn't really happy, so I had to discard the recording because it was just awful. So I decided to actually talk about something else today, and I'm going to talk about Kingdom Death Monster. Now, Kingdom Death Monster is a board game, kind of possibly also an RPG without a game master. Definitely a civilization building game, and I would say in its combination of the different aspects, it is unique. I don't think that there is a single game that combines all of these aspects in one big box. Although I would say that its ingredients are not unique and are certainly not necessarily innovative. I think the way it's been put together is very innovative, but I don't think each single item on the list that I've just mentioned has never been done before. Now, the game itself, I believe, was first published in 2015, or that's at least when I got my copy, after a Kickstarter, which had been created by Adam Poots, who has been making models for a long time, and you can buy those models. So he didn't kickstart the models, but he essentially had this dream that he wanted to make a game set in this universe that he has created in his mind. Um, which is a terrible world where humans are essentially, bound to die. There are terrible monsters there. It's called Kingdom Death Monster. The monsters themselves are quite grotesque. A lot of them are quite obscene. The game is certainly not for anyone younger than 18. And I don't think it's necessarily something that I would play with anyone, even if they're over 18 and everyone. But I think it takes a certain maturity as well. I would choose my gaming group for this one quite carefully. The game itself, when it first came out, came in a huge box, and I did an unboxing, and when I got the box, it was about 13 kilograms. Now, that is really heavy. The reason why it's so heavy is because on the one hand, it contains a, a separate smaller box full of materials for building the miniatures. This is a miniature based game, and it does say so that it's a hobby game. It's about miniatures, and you are told that you need to assemble those miniatures. This is part of the game. Now, it is true. Putting together the miniatures is definitely part of the game in terms of the miniatures do make the game different from other games simply because Adam Poots's artistic vision is in those miniatures. I would argue that if, like me, you are completely untalented when it comes to this, and you cannot for the life of you put those miniatures together, you can still play the game. You can replace those miniatures, you can replace them with miniatures from other games. You can also replace them with coins, because when it comes to the actual skirmish game, part of the game where you try to fight the monster, it's all in the imagination. I mean, you're not really getting out a lantern and a sword, and you're not really hacking away at a white lion with human hands for feet. You are just basically acting all of this out in your head and on a board. So I would have no problem actually playing this without the miniatures. Now, I'm a very lucky person in that I've got really good friends who really are into miniature building, and they built the miniatures for me. We got together last July, and in one evening they put together plenty of miniatures for me. I tried to put together a couple of survivors only the other week, and they're still without heads. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to give them heads at some point and they will be fine, but they are by no means as beautiful as the ones that my two friends, Sir Didi and Curly, put together. They are not as, I'm just not as talented. So I think miniatures are important to the game if you want to experience the full flavor of the game, but at least for somebody with my level of abstract and analytical thinking, I can totally look beyond the miniatures. So if you give me plastic bottle caps, I can play with those too. Then the game comes with hundreds and hundreds of cards. These cards, on the one hand, are item cards, which you can get when you craft items from other cards that you gain when you, for example, hunt or when you forage. You can win items, you can win resources, and those resources then can be turned into items through crafting. There are also cards that describe the settlement that you have founded, because it's all about civilization building and settlement founding. So there are different things you can do there. There is an element of religion there. There's an element of crafting, innovation, making new things, finding out new things. There's also things like, I would say, metaphysical in origin, such as what do we do with the first death? What do we do with the first birth? How do we want to look after the young in our colony, and so on and so forth? And these are all part and parcel of what the colony goes through as you go from lantern year to lantern year. They're called lantern years in the game. And you try to keep people alive. It'll be difficult to keep people alive, and I think I know at least 5 people who have had a total party wipe before Lantern year 25 was out and done. And I think they're not the only ones at the moment. I've only played half a Lantern year, and everybody's kind of going okay. But guys, we haven't seen anything yet. I mean, this was just a lucky first outing with my heroes or heroines, and don't get too attached to them because they will die, and the game will take them from you. So even naming them, which you have to do, if you don't name them, then the separation will be less problematic. But in this game, you do have to name them. So the game comes with very many components, and in 2016. There was a new Kickstarter, which I found by accident because I came across a BGG forum entry where someone was terribly upset by the fact that there was a Kickstarter out there for Kingdom Death Monster 1.5, which I think if you went all in for the full pledge with all of the additional special stretch goals to be unlocked over the course of the next 3 years, because I think final delivery will be 2020 or something, you could pledge $1,600. And there was this huge debate because this person was really upset by this and said, well, and I'm pretty sure that everybody is as disgusted as I am about this, blah, blah, blah. And of course, first of all, he came to the wrong crowd, because Board Game Geek is a website where people go who play games. And I know myself, I'm somebody who invests a lot of money in games. And those of you who have been watching my channel know that I've got a collection that is quite huge. It's not as huge as some people's collections, but it's not small either. And even if I just look at how much I've spent on Lord of the Rings alone, I've owned every single AP that's out there. I'm just missing two card expansions, which are out, but which I have not been able to obtain. Battle of Laketown and Massing at Osgiliath. Everything else I own. And the small adventure packs probably retail at about £12, which is 16 euros. There are, I think, 6 cycles at this stage. That's 36 packs, 360, 420, 400, 390, just for those. Base game, 60 or 50 euros, 440, 6 deluxe expansions at 30 each if I'm generous. So yeah, we're looking at, and then of course the saga expansions, we're looking at probably round about, gosh, almost €1,000 that I've just invested in this one game. And I'm not even finished because there is other stuff coming out. There is one more saga expansion for the Lord of the Rings coming out. Cycle of Harad will be finished this year. All of those adventure packs, Massing at Osgiliath, which if I wanted to buy it now, I could spend 50 euros on it, just on this small package, because it's out of print or something. So really difficult to come by. And all my war games, I mean, there's one war game that I bought and it's older than me. It cost me 90 euros. It's a lot of money. It's nothing. There is nothing in there except a paper map and a couple of chits. And of course, in games, a lot of the time you don't pay for the actual physical objects that you buy, but for the IP behind it, for the idea behind it, for the planning that goes into it, for the putting together of rules, putting together of scenarios. So, you know, the money that you pay isn't necessarily in any relationship with the actual physical object that you buy. But then again, $1,600 is a steep price. And I get that somebody might go, why would you want to pay this? But it was also the way he asked it, or the way he made his point, that a lot of people actually went up in arms. And I don't think it was only the so-called Kingdom Death Monster fanboys and fangirls. There aren't as many fangirls, and I'll go into that a little later. But the fanboys really gave him a good beating. And I have to say that I also posted and I said, yes, it's actually just you who finds this terribly upsetting. If it does upset you, that's fine. But don't expect everybody else to be upset, because this is a gamer forum. People who come here are people who are hobbying. This is what they do. Gaming is their hobby. I know someone whose hobby is golf. So he's got golf clubs, you know. I'm not sure if you need to buy more than one set of golf clubs, but if I look at golf clubs on the internet, you can get one golf club. This is just very easy to find. It's a Titlice 716 TMB utility iron steel HR, and it's one golf club. I think you need more than one. I don't know the first thing about golf, but I know that they always run around with bags full of clubs, and this one retails at 209 euros. So I suppose that if you need 10 of those, you get to 2,000 very easily. I don't know if this is good quality. It could be a really crappy golf club, but even just Googling this is just gives you an idea of gaming isn't exactly a cheap hobby, but it's by no means the most expensive hobby. But even staying in the area of board games, when I started to get back into chess, I bought chess sets, and I paid 100 euros for the board itself. It's a huge board, really beautifully handcrafted, but I decided to, you know, treat myself to it. You can get chess sets, you know, like boards and the pawns and the chess pieces for £12, 20 euros, whatnot, and you can get really, 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 really expensive ones. Now, chess has been around for a very, 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 very long time, but you have so many different varieties of chess sets, chessboards, figures, pieces. Some of them have been endorsed by some world champion, and they are expensive or really, really inexpensive. So again, there you have a large variety of price spans. So the fact that this guy got really upset by this, by the fact that people really like this game and are going to pay a lot for this, was quite an interesting debate. And I think to the very last post, he was unable to accept the fact that people were not in agreement with him. But I do want to talk about pricing, because while I didn't go in for the 1600 pledge because I already have version 1.0, I just went for the 1.5 upgrade, which essentially changes out some of the old cards which have been, I don't know, I guess errated or, you know, corrected, and then some new stuff. But when I first bought Kingdom Death Monster 1.0, I did pay a lot of money. I unfortunately can't recall how much I paid, but I think it was about 200 euros including shipping, which actually isn't that much. So I tried to find out how much it sold for, and I found one posting where it was available, and it's now sold out, but where you could buy it for $275 plus shipping. And it was just the basic version. I mean, there was no Kickstarter extras or anything. Now, the question is that actually expensive? Well, in order to look into this a little more, I would like to show you something, and I'll see if I can actually do this using this device that I'm trying out, this new software. Like I said, Kingdom Death Monster has a lot of miniatures. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't get a really good picture of the phoenix that shows it in its entirety. But this is one of the boss monsters. It's a phoenix. You can definitely see its wing here and its beak. And the other wing is over there. It's the only picture that I could find. But I did show it to you in a video because this is one of the ones that a friend of mine put together. Now, it's massive. It is absolutely massive. I need to hold it in both my hands because it's actually even on the base. It is quite big. And it's so big that I had to put it into an extra box because it's about, I would say, its wingspan is easily 20 centimeters, which is quite a lot. Now, compare this to, and this is part of the base game. You don't pay any extra for this, okay? Now, compare this to another image that I took. And this is from a website. And what you see here is a Balrog. Now this Balrog is also made of plastic. All of the miniatures from Kingdom Death Monster are plastic. This is the Games Workshop Balrog for the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit strategy battle game. It's just the miniature, which you also have to assemble, and you have to paint it. This is a finalized painted version, and I'm pretty sure that it's actually not, the base is not the one that it would come with. This one retails at 51 euros for one single miniature. I chose the Balrog because it's comparable in size to the Phoenix. Now that's 51 euros. I paid 200 euros for a whole game, which contains a miniature, not just one, but plenty, and one that definitely has a great similarity to a Balrog and can be compared to it, no problem. I also got several other miniatures. I can't even count. I mean, there's the lion, there's the hand, there's the butcher, there's the phoenix, there's the antelope, there's the king's man, and then there's the watcher. Those are the boss monsters, if I'm not mistaken. That's 7. Not all of them are as tall and as big as the phoenix, but you know, you get the idea. Even just the amount that you're getting is much more than the 51 euros where you get one figure. In addition, the 51 euros buy you one figure, but you don't get a whole game, because in order to play the strategy game, the strategy battle game, you also need armies, you also need other foes and other, you know, good characters. And those of you who have been following my vlogs on the Lord of the Rings last year, you saw me doing all of the hobbying, and you saw me buying all of those figures, and you saw me doing all kinds of, you know, stuff that I found on eBay, because I prefer the metal figures to the plastic figures. But in addition to this, if you just buy this, you still only have the figures. You don't have a game. The game comes separately in books, and Games Workshop makes huge amounts of money with this, also with Warhammer and Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar, because that's how they operate. They build miniatures, that's what they do, and then they put out books which allow you to play games with those miniatures. So for someone to say, oh, 1600 is actually so much money. Yes, it is much money, but it's by no means the most expensive game out there. And it's also by no means the first time that someone would say, for a miniature game, skirmish game, blah, 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 I'm going to charge 1600 euros, because you could get 1,600 euros, a bill of 1,600 euros for Games Workshop stuff very, very easily and quickly. I did not record how much I paid for the miniatures that I bought last year. I'm definitely sure I didn't pay 1,600 euros or $1,600, but I would say several hundred euros easily, because you collect, and that's how they make their money. So that's a little bit about Kingdom Death Monster and this controversy about its price. There is another controversy, which I don't know if it's died down, but it is to do with the content. Now, the game itself, as I bought it, just came with normal miniatures, I should say, and not with pinups. Now, the pinups are, as the name suggests, and I'm not going to show any, slightly or very sexualized versions of men and women, but mostly women, in very scant attire sometimes, and you know, a lot of anime style went into the design. So they have shall we say, the female physique is depicted in such a way that when you look at it, you realize these are not real women. You don't look like this without having had serious breast augmentation, shall we say. And in the actual rule book, there are also some pictures which are a little bit manga style, but I have to say they are much less problematic in my mind than the pictures that you see in Anima Beyond Fantasy, which is a Spanish role-playing game, which was published by Fantasy Flight Games in English, where you see very inappropriate pictures. I looked at the pictures because we were playing it for a while, and I said, sorry, I mean, that's just, not only does it look ridiculous, I take objection to those pictures of the female form. I don't like those, and I don't think it's appropriate. So I would say, compared to that, and compared to a lot of anime and manga out there, the vanilla Kingdom Death Monster version is absolutely okay. I did not look at those pictures and go, oh my god, they look terrible. There are actually quite a lot of really funny pictures in there. And I really like the cartoony style where they first explain the rules, and you have like the lion and the survivors fighting against each other. That's the entry. Fight, and I've also filmed that one. And so basically, as they explain the rules, you have like cartoonish pictures of the survivors basically pelting the lion with dice, you know. And so basically, they roll a 10, which is an automatic hit. And you basically, the survivor takes the 10-sided die and just basically stabs the lion's foot with it, and the lion roars and is so unhappy, and basically, you know, like really looks at her and kind of goes, what have you just done? So I think that the art is absolutely fine. The art is probably more horrific and gory, in my opinion, than it is sexualized. And when you read the book and the stories that unfold, I think reading Ovid's Metamorphoses or any story involving Greek or Roman gods is much more sexualized than this. So I would say the actual game is free from this. But I think a lot of people saw those pin-ups, which you can buy and which you can use to play, and really demonized the game and also its creator because of them. And I understand why people take objection to the pinups. I certainly don't like them either, and I would not buy them, and I would certainly not put them together and put them up on a shelf. But I also have to say that this is a person's artistic vision. And there are certainly more artistic visions out there, and have been since people created, since mankind invented art, where the human form is shown in a very suggestive way, both men and women, over the millennia. And I would not want to damn someone who has an artistic vision, because it's a vision. There is, to me, I think people went over the top. There are some depictions in what we now consider art, because it's ancient Greek and so it's art and it must be good, which are very pornographic. And nothing I've seen in Kingdom Death Monster is even remotely like that. But there we call it art, and here we call it, I don't know, something terrible. So for those people who don't like the game or say, oh, you can't play the game because of the pinups have nothing to do with the game. They don't come with the game. You have to buy them specifically. You have to buy them separately. And I find it a bit problematic when people take these two and put them together and mesh them together and then come up with false ideas and possibly even wrong ideas. And to me, this is quite annoying, because it kind of detracts from the game itself. And I mean, don't get me wrong, if you don't like the game, that's totally fine, you know. There are reasons why people might not like the game. But for those of you who would like to know more about the game, I would say go to YouTube and watch some of the really good playthroughs. There's a really lovely series by Hitpoint Games. And there are two series by them, actually. I'm going to keep posting mine, although I haven't played in 3 weeks or so. But there are plenty where you can experience the game as it is out of the box, without anyone, you know, putting in any weird stuff or using any miniatures that you may find in any way problematic. Having said this, even the survivors out of the box, the men only wear loincloths. And they are, you know, quite Greek looking. They look like Greek statues, so they have really beautiful bodies. So if I'm able to say this, and if I'm allowed to say this, then I think if somebody says, oh yeah, there's a woman and she has a beautiful body, then that's fine too. Sexism works both ways when it comes to this. So that's all from my end. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.